Welcome back to Marketing Connected. I'm your host, Xin Ying, and you're tuned in to In Conversation, a series where we, as the title suggests, are in conversation with the industry's brilliant minds and experts. In this episode, we have Carl Mack, co-founder of HEPMIL Media Group, a network of tech companies like SGAG, MGAG, PGAG, and HEPMIL Creators Network focusing on digital content. And not too long ago, HEPMIL was acquired by Publicis, marking a turning point in global and Southeast Asian influencer marketing. Without further ado, thanks for coming on the show, Carl.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's so fun because I want to wind it back a little bit. I personally am curious. I know we've heard a lot of stories about this before, but how did you guys come up with HEPMIL, SGAG, MGAG, and all these like really popular brands right now? Did you and Adrian just sit around and toy with the idea? How did this come about?
Well, it was one of those things where one thing led to another, right? So it started with a meme page in Singapore, SGAG, and then we brought that model to the rest of Southeast Asia. But it was very, very challenging to achieve the same scale that we did in Singapore, in other markets. And so there was a failed acquisition couple of years back, and that sent us down this trajectory where we needed to pivot our business. Otherwise, it was not going to be worth the journey because we were struggling on regional expansion. So that led to kind of building a startup within a startup. That period of time in 2018-19, I felt like the creator economy and the advertising sector was kind of at an inflection point where a lot of new creators were coming on the scene. There was a new app called TikTok really at the early stages of its growth journey, and we were very fortunate to be able to kind of spot that, build something around that. We were not kind of early in the influencer space per se, but we really chose to use the term creators because it was really not about the individual's good looks or fancy living. We wanted authentic stories. We wanted to work with people that were kind of distributing on a new platform called TikTok, and it was so much fun. So we launched HEPMIL Creators Network, HCN for short, which came out much later in our journey in 2019. But we realized we had all the skill sets, knowledge of how to grow your own channel, more importantly, how to work with brands, that we felt was a very underserved part of the market. And we doubled down on that to help the new creators in Southeast Asia kind of work with brands, work with agencies, because that was all very complex and very challenging for an individual creator. And so, kind of fast forward from where we began, we kind of turned from being an individual creator ourselves to working with creators at scale, and advertising and working with agencies and brands was kind of the monetization business model behind all of this.
Would you say that being early in the game somewhat helped a lot with what you guys are doing currently?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we were early as content creators. We were one of like the 3-4 that have been around for now over a decade. Started as the young ones. Now we're kind of like the older ones. But at the same time, we were so late to the influencer space, if you would call it, right? We were not there. There were so many that have gone before. But as with all things in business, the first mover advantage is not necessarily something we hold on to as a priority or something that's too important for us, but really asking questions about what's the gap in the market, what are the problems media buyers face, what are the problems the industry faces that perhaps we were the right people to solve for, was kind of how we approached it.
Right. So speaking of gaps in the market, it has been a very interesting few months for you guys at HEPMIL because you've recently joined forces with one of the biggest networks in the ad industry, which is Publicis. So can you tell us how that has been like? Has there been any tensions, any surprises, any aha moments? Because it's like, in some ways, in lack of a better word, like a marriage, a business marriage, where two come together and start working very closely together. How's that been like for you guys?
So honestly, it's been great. I think there were different paths we could have taken in the intersection somewhere around 25. we were offered different sort of paths that we could take. One was definitely being part of a larger group, and there were a few opportunities there. The other path was to continue the journey on our own with new investors, and we explored all options. To be honest, we didn't start the process kind of with an end goal in mind, like this is what I want, I'm set on that. But we kept an open mind. As a core team, we had been together in 25 for about 10 years. That was our 10th year anniversary with our first employees as well. They've stayed with us since the beginning. And so it was a very natural conversation to kind of go out and meet different groups, talk to them, and Publicis came up tops. And people ask why Publicis, right?
Yeah, why?
I think it goes back to the core fundamental, maybe slightly cliche answer, right? Which is it's really about the people. Our business is a people business. It is really the brilliance of individuals coming together, creating something out of nothing, being highly collaborative in a culture that people want to stay in, and that's the only thing we have. We don't have a secret algorithm that we're keeping in this safe that nobody can access. No, it's people. And it was a very simple question of, can we envision ourselves working with these people across not just the folks in Singapore, but across the region? What kind of work were they putting out? What kind of culture did they have? What kind of work will we be able to do? What kind of things we could create together that might have been very difficult for us to create alone. Ultimately, we're still considered a small, medium enterprise in this part of the world, but they were so large, right? So there was a deep sense of curiosity for us to understand how did they operate and build up 100 years. It's the 100th year of Publicis Group this year, from a legacy of being able to manage such scale of clients, such scale of work. That's always been very exciting for us. And so the past few months, to your point, has been a huge learning journey. I think that's what we also really wanted, for our people to be able to learn, not just in our industry, in our vertical within the industry, but to learn what our colleagues across different teams are doing, learn about how they manage such a scale of business, not even globally, but locally, regionally, they're massive giants. So for us to be able to go in, learn, and find our voice to be able to contribute to that part of the process has been something that we look forward to. And it's mind-boggling for us. We've been involved in a couple of meetings, a couple of sessions where, wow, just the sheer scale of one day we're talking to somebody from London and then from Brazil and from all parts of the world. And so that's been kind of very interesting. Obviously, challenging at different areas. I think the most challenging component is really the financial reporting side. They are a listed company. They are very sophisticated. We are a SME that's headquartered in Singapore. We deal with local currencies in Southeast Asia. They report in euros. So I would say that's a huge learning curve for us. We've not had the rigor of reporting to public markets or reporting in the way that they report. That obviously takes a lot of work. So we had to really beef up on resources and knowledge as well. And the team's been fantastic. I think they've really leaned in to help us, guide us, like a younger sibling coming into the family. And so that's been challenging, but hopefully we get there sooner than later.
So I think when we broke the story of Marketing Interactive, it was like a whole big deal. Everyone was so excited. Such great news. But we also noticed that Adrian posted a video with you inside, and you were fronting it together with him, which from what we recall, you used to be more of a background person, pulling the strings from behind the scenes. What made you take that step and step into the limelight for this?
Well, firstly, it's probably the biggest announcement I'll make in my life. And it was an important moment to be put a face to the business. We saw this as a more B2B sort of trade announcement. And in fact, it was funny because some public figures had DM'd me and they're like, oh, wow, how did you stay out of media and limelight for so long?
Yeah.
We didn't even know you existed, right? And I was like, that's the whole point. Because my entire role in my existence was not to be known. There was not much need for me to be known by consumers or audiences, but really to the B2B world, that was kind of where I would speak at most of the trade conferences, most of the B2B meetings, client engagement, investor engagement. That was all me for 10 years. And that is a more, I would say, behind the scenes role, but it was important. It was important because it was kind of the end of a chapter and the start of a new one. And definitely, I felt the need to step into the limelight, as you would call, to really represent the company, share the why, engage stakeholders and audiences are an important part of that.
Does this begin your B2B influencer journey?
So, over the years, I've had this interesting kind of relationship with my own profile. I am active on LinkedIn. I
Yes.
do use it, and I do have a following there. But
Quite big.
on personal life, I've always been a bit more private. So certainly a lot more coming on LinkedIn for sure. But on personal life, I like to stay private, and that's gonna continue as well.
Okay, so not so much into TikTok and Instagram yet. We'll stay on LinkedIn for the time being. You've also spent a decade, I think as you mentioned, 10 years, building a brand on being the cheeky underdog, so to say, that pokes fun at establishments while also working with large-scale establishments. It's a very delicate balance that we've noticed. So I guess my question is then, with corporate bureaucracy, how do you prevent HEPMIL from becoming just another sanitized ad or influencer agency?
Yeah, definitely. We had a lot of discussions primarily around not just on the SGAG or the content pillar, but really on what makes us who we are. And one of the great things about going through the process with them was they were very clear and very forward in the way they put it, to say, hey, we don't want to tell you how to cook the soup. You are the chef who's been cooking this magical pot of soup, and we like what you've been cooking. We will have to be able to protect that together, right? So in any ways that maybe that's being affected or that's changing, call it out, and we will really need to safeguard that. And I think that's something that really struck us as a very sincere appeal, and not just from the ones who were working with us saying it, but they were able to tell us, well, that's the magic of M&A. If you go in and you tell them what to do, then what's the point of acquiring? So to reference that statement, I think we had the chance to also look at the prior acquisitions that they had done in our sphere in the past couple of years. And we saw that, yeah, many of them were able to kind of keep their brand identity, keep the ways of work that made it work in their markets, because it's so nuanced. There is no one size fits all in our industry, in our nature of work. And they were able to safeguard that. The founders are still there. They're all sort of meaningfully engaged with the wider group. And that's what we like most. So with regards to the content, nothing changes. They didn't come in and say like, oh no, you can't do this or you can't do that. A lot of it was, okay, like let's know how do we know what's happening? How can we update each other about what's happening? How do we find ways of communicating so that we understand what you're doing and value add to that? And that's kind of why we also said yes, because there were other groups that maybe didn't see the value of it as much, or maybe wanted to change things up a little bit more aggressively. And that was kind of like, maybe not for us. So I would say with Publicis, they were the most forthcoming and kind of going like, no, we want to protect BAU. We want to make sure you keep what's magical about your work.
So more of communication between the two parties rather than one policing or say trying to change.
Yeah. Yeah, if not, we would have said no. Lah.
So I'm guessing that was like quite top of mind for you guys also to
actually-
maintain, or were you open to the idea of potentially maybe changing your brand tone a bit?
Well, to be fair, I think to clarify, the content business has increasingly become smaller and smaller in terms of contribution of total size of business. It is a growing business, but the influencer piece for us was just growing at such a staggering rate.
The bigger pie.
Yeah, it was a much bigger and faster growing pie. And again, we couldn't have built the creator network without our experience being a creator. So it kind of complemented each other. The content business is still around, still alive. We're still doing a lot of work there. But the wider thinking on how to manage influence at scale was something that was for front and center of the deal, because it's at such a developmental phase as a sector in itself. There are no fixed ways of work, as I described earlier, around the world. It's heavily nuanced in the market that you're operating in. So even in Southeast Asia, we do 6 markets. It's kind of different within the markets. And to be able to do it well at a APAC, Southeast Asia, global level, is something that I think takes a lot of delicateness to be able to refine your strategy in each market for each brand with the right creators. And so that was actually where we spent bulk of our time.
What makes a HEPMIL creator a HEPMIL creator?
Well, I think first and foremost, people always ask, oh, is it the biggest numbers,
Yeah,
most
that's
followers?
what I would think when I see it's someone
Absolutely
that's
not.
very popular. Mm.
I mean, we have some we have two types of creators that we work with, and I would say the bulk of them are what we call non-exclusive creators. We approach this really in the lens that Gen Zs are really different, right? They don't want to be bound by a thick contract. You sign your life away, you don't know what you're signing for. And so for us, we take a very light approach to say, hey, we have commercial opportunities, let's work together, but there are responsibilities when you work with a brand, right? So we use that as a starting point, and there has to be an eagerness to want to work with a brand. Where we don't want to be is that please work with me, and it's a one-sided relationship where please all the time. That's not going to work. It has to be intent from both sides, and it doesn't matter if your numbers are not big, because the creator economy has fast been evolving. And when we first started, maybe it was all about the macros or the big ones, but the prices have gone up, right?
Yeah.
It's increasingly challenging to engage them as your only strategy. And keep in mind, in a small market like Singapore, there are a limited number of creators. So if there's a very aggressive brand that's been blocking out this creator, and the creator also resonates with the brand, then brand B coming in to slap a bigger check on the table is not the right strategy, right? And the opportunity cost of that can be, you can find so many more across micros, nanos,
yeah.
however you tier them. And you can run a very sophisticated strategy there that can even now drive to sales, because TikTok as a platform and different platforms have all integrated with commerce.
Yep.
Media can boost not just the top of the funnel, you can go bottom funnel, you can sell stuff, you can drive different objectives with the campaign. And so it's become so dynamic, very sophisticated also. And so for us to choose creators, the content must be there. They must love making content. They must want to work with brands. And the professionalism is kind of where we start. Then it becomes a journey of fulfilling potentials. For our exclusive pool, which is the second pool we work with, we have a very small pool of them. Some of the names are like Zaki, Shafika, Samantha. They are all sort of creators that came into our network, and we saw so much potential. Like Zaki was a full-time employee. He was a director with SGAG.
Yeah.
And he's so funny on set.
I love him. I love watching his videos.
Yeah, he's so funny on set. And every time he's there directing a SGAG video, everyone is laughing. And we're like, dude, you're so funny. You're just so entertaining. Like, why don't open an account? We'll manage it together. Like, let's get your content up. And boom.
Oh my goodness. So he wasn't like set out, I want to be an influencer.
No, not
but
at all.
You guys saw the potential.
That's why he's so funny. And he's literally in my office every day. Everybody's laughing. And so we're like, why don't you just start an account, see how it goes, right? And boom, the guy explodes. My list, my rules, and during COVID, he just exploded. And today, he's one of the top creators. We don't necessarily just go for big numbers, but we love the journey of creating value together, of journeying with them, because it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of failures. It's a lot of writer's block. It's lonely, because as a creator, you're kind of like a solo entrepreneur.
Yep.
You sometimes need community, and that's kind of what we saw. What if we could create an environment where they have the engine of teams helping them, writers coming in to support, production
So coming in with the community for them.
yeah, and other creators to collaborate together. You can do duets, you can kind of do funny things. And if you follow this other series, Migos, the three of them, Zaki and his two buddies, both of them used to be SGAG. One of them left, but three of them met at SGAG. They were just hilarious as a trio. And we're like, hey, you guys should do something, right? So a lot of the magic happens in what we call water cooler talks, right? Where they bump in the pantry, or we sit, we're having a coffee, and then boom, magic happens. And that's the fun part. But we only do this with a small subset. We work with a larger pool now, especially with over 5,000 to 10,000 creators. But we have about 15 plus minus of them that are really in our exclusive pool. And those we co-create a lot of content together. And to do that, you must have a very unique proposition. Like Hokkien girl, Yiting, Take Ho, right? She was so unique in Singapore. And we said, look, we think we could do so much together. And I think that's been the fun part of the process.
So, Carl, we want to kind of take it back to a bit more of a personal level. Running your own company for so many years must be quite a feat, a task. It can be exhausting at times, I assume. And I know your partner Adrian was pretty candid with all of his followers on some of the struggles that he faced. And you've always been behind the scenes. We don't really hear about the struggles that you might have come across. Did you ever feel the same as he did?
Well, I mean, yeah, high stress, all consuming, running a business. Yes, I think that applies to not just us, but everyone who runs a business of any size and scale. It is all consuming. Definitely, there were difficult times, but I think personality-wise plays a part. Adrian is unique in his own way. For me, I would describe my oscillations or my swings in emotions are a lot smaller. So I'm not as happy as maybe someone else who would enjoy great highs. Maybe that's why I just eat sandwiches and go back to work, right? But at the same time, when the lows hit, my lows are not as low as other people. I just don't feel as much.
You're a neutral feeler.
So I'm very neutral. So it's like, the world can be crashing at work, but I go home, it's just another normal day for me back home. And it's just, if you can do that over a long period of time, it's okay, right? Like I think I'm not a sprinter, right? But I can run at a very slow pace for a very long time, and I think that's what we always strive to do. And I think personality helps a lot. I don't feel as much, but that allows me the stamina and I think the ability to go for a long kind of journey, and we've done that as a team, not just me.
Yeah.
I've obviously had the great support of my team, who we also approached it very much with the same intentional long view, where let's not go crazy and burn ourselves out within the first 3 years or 5 years, where we don't pull all-nighters. We seldom do that, right? There are times obviously we have to, but we don't do that at a 52-week cadence where
Yeah.
we're always in all-nighters. We take a lot of breaks, right? So we take breaks. We go home. Like I go home on time. I've actually gone home at the same time every day for 10 years. We don't want to crash and burn, right? We want to just kind of do this at a very measured pace. And obviously there are obvious busy times and less busy times, but overall, I would say it's been kind of the same for 10 years. So that allowed us to kind of stay fit. But I'm not a social media personality. I don't deal with the online sentiments and comments from strangers, which again is very different from let's say Adrian, who is a public figure and he has to think about content and deal with that side of the business. But for me, that's why maybe I'm more insular in that sense. I'm insulated from all of that. I focus a lot on thinking about the business, thinking about things around the business. Stressful, yes, but manageable. Also thankful for maybe the right fit of personality that allows me to kind of do this over the long term.
Right. So you guys, in a way, are a bit of a yin and yang team. So, what was the one thing that you didn't realize you'd be doing when you first started HEPMIL? Did you ever, I mean, besides the fact that you're suddenly in the limelight now, what else was there that you didn't expect to do?
I would say I spend a lot of time talking to my teams. And I've had all sorts of funny conversations with HR, with our own people, because I'm super hands-on with the team, where I was recently catching lizards in the boardroom, because everyone was
That's
screaming,
a different kind of
right?
hands-on.
And I like it. I like doing these things. Take out the trash. That's all good. So I would say the funny ones were probably catching lizards, catching cockroaches, because there are a lot of people that are screaming when that happens. But I didn't expect that. Yeah, 10 years
would
on,
have to catch
I'm still doing these
cockroaches.
things. But it's fine, because this is our business, my business. We take care of it. We take care of the people. We sit down with the people a lot. I still do a lot of that, although a lot busier now. But
300 people.
300 people. Yeah, we sit down, we try to get to know them at a personal level. Especially we have interns that come through, we try to spend time with them. We try to really get to know each and every one of them. And unknowingly, we've built a fantastic alumni. What has accumulated over 10 years of just having great relationships with people that come in and out of the business. People always tell me, oh, this so-and-so called me because she's our client now, and she used to be a pioneer on the team. So that's always very nice for me to kind of see people outside of came through our doors and went into the industry, and we get to work together, and starts from small things like helping them catch lizards. But that's a nice part of the business that unexpectedly was something I didn't realize I had to do, right? Spend so much time with people doing the small things, and really doing that over a long period of time.
In a way, I guess that translates to mentorship. So, Carl, you may not be eating caviar and sipping champagne at the moment, but we have a $1 million question for you. What do you think is the future of the creator economy? Can you give us a bit of a crystal ball take here?
Well, I think it's wildly exciting. And I reference my now 9-year-old son who has just watched YouTube and the creator economy most of his childhood, right? And most of his childhood. He has not watched all that much on cartoons specifically. He has not watched all that many movies.
So
and
interesting.
his
Is there a screen off rule? Because
There is.
you work in the industry.
There is a screen off rule, but his entire view of entertainment is formed by kind of creators and what they do. And that's wildly exciting because we go to like a guy like Mr. Beast, right? His chocolates are what my son wants to consume. When he walks into the supermarket, I want that chocolate.
Prime
Right?
drinks
Logan
and
Paul's
things.
Prime. And that's very West. What about here? What about Southeast Asia? I think we've not really had one amazing success that's kind of influenced the whole region. But in micro ways, yes, we see Khairul Amrin in Malaysia setting a TikTok shop record,
Selling
right?
sambal.
Selling sambal. I talk to creators that do live streaming with us in Vietnam, crossing the $1 million GMV. And creator-led commerce is very exciting. Creator-led businesses is very exciting, right? We have Sam in Singapore, who's also launching her own playgroup, right? Experimenting with different things. We have just all these micro projects that I believe strongly in the next couple of years will become kind of the HEPMIL story in their own right, in their own way. And that's going to be very fun for us to be a part of. Brands are obviously right up front and center into that, to being able to do more collabs, kind of launch lines together. It's going to be fascinating. Even we look at Skims, right, out of the US and what they're doing with Nike, and you see someone like Lisa and Jenny and all of them getting involved. It's all fascinating, and they are mega creators or stars. The lines are blurred, but I believe creators have that influence over that alpha generation, where they are going to be obsessed with what these creators are going to launch, from TV shows that we see in the West to whatever products that are up and coming. It's all a lot of fun and massive opportunity in Asia.
Is HEPMIL looking to create the next, say, Mr. Beast or Lisa out of Southeast Asia then?
Well, we're not a talent management business per se, right? So I would say definitely we're going to spend a lot more time with brands, helping brands, talking to brands, understanding brands. But I would say being able to launch a big collaboration or be in the middle of how to strategize something like that is probably where we'll be. A lot more opportunities outside for the creator economy to flourish in that direction of maybe talent management and development. We don't do as much of that, especially now we're part of Publicis. So that is not a strategy that the group is going to take, because ultimately we work with brands.
Or even to create a creator or influencer like Zaki to become a Mr. Beast of Singapore.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
he is, in my view, the Mr. Beast of Singapore, but definitely bigger projects. But for us, we're very obsessed with kind of how brands can be a part of culture, what we call on culture, in front of culture in this part of the world. That's where we want to be.
Right, excited to see where you guys land on that. And on that note, thank you so much for being a part of In Conversation.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
It was fun for me as well. And to the listeners out there, don't worry, although this interview with Carl Mak of HEPMIL is over, you can check out more In Conversation episodes and other marketing connected interviews on your favorite podcast platforms. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Marketing Connected, brought to you by Marketing Interactive. Goodbye, everyone.